Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, my name's Rhiannon Reese. I'm an elite performance coach, best-selling author, and of course a speaker. I love speaking, not always, but I do love speaking. Today's talk is actually about how to ignite the passion within to create success. And when I talk about success, I'm not just talking about success financially or actually, achieving the top of your game. I'm talking about success mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and financially. I'm talking about a wholesome experience of success, whatever success means for you. In Dale Beaumont's book, Secrets of Young Achievers, he has a line in there that says, to be able to create success, you first need to learn how to lose. So I actually want to share some stories with you, because I find stories are very powerful, that have allowed me to achieve very rapid success, and also to how I'm then able to coach other people to achieve quite dizzying heights. Like some of my clients have increased their income from anywhere from 200 to 1,000% in 1 year by harnessing their true power within. So let me tell you a story. I've been blessed with many different tragedies, and the tragedy I'd like to speak about today actually helped me to discover who I truly was. It actually helped me to see inside that I had a lot more to give and a lot more resources than I first thought. So I used to own a business in Whistler, and we had people that came. It was a health retreat. So we had people that came and did, facials and manicures and pedicures and things like that. And one particular day, I'm not the best baker in the world, but it was my son's first birthday, and I'd made this cheesecake. And, it was amazing, it was fantastic, but my business partner used to bake for me all the time. So I actually decided I'd remake that cake for her. Now, my husband and I, we actually shared a vehicle. And so if ever I needed, to borrow the truck, I would actually just say to him, can I borrow the truck? And I'd go and get it and whatever. So this particular day, I'd actually left the cheesecake at home on top of the stove. And I hadn't made any plans to pick it up or anything like that. And I thought, God, if I leave that there, it's going to spoil. And I'm not going to be making another cheesecake because that's not my thing. So I don't want it to be ruined. So instead of actually calling my husband that day, it's interesting how things happen, I actually just said to my business partner, I said, could I borrow your vehicle and can I just go home? And she goes, yeah, sure. So I actually didn't call my husband, which is a first. And we'd been together about nearly 10 years. And my son was a year old. And so, I drove home and I parked the car. And as I was walking down to our house, I walked through the beautiful garden and I put my key in the door and I unlocked the door and I walked through the hallway. And as I walked through the hallway, I saw a flash of pink. And I thought to myself, oh, that's unusual. What is that pink? Anyway, I turned the corner and there was my husband, who was a firefighter and beautiful, gorgeous man, standing there in my black lacy lingerie. That was a present for our wedding. Now, it is quite unusual. Your mind does go into many different directions. Like, first of all, I couldn't believe it was true. Then I thought maybe it's a fetish. Maybe it's something, he's interested in. I don't know what it is. But because I'm also trained as a counsellor and a homeopath, I was able to then actually put the wife and the mother to one side. And I was able to just step into the role of the counsellor, homeopath, and psychologist, if you like, in that moment. And he was actually doing a job interview over the phone. And when he finished that job interview, he walked over to me and he held my hands and he said to me, I've always wanted to be a girl. And in that moment, I knew that I could, depending on what I said, I could possibly destroy someone's life. And I knew I had to be, in that moment, I knew I had to say something with loving kindness, even though, I was having my own stuff. And what I said in that moment was, you'll be a beautiful girl, help yourself to my clothes. And I picked up the cheesecake and I ran out the door and I cried every day for 18 months. Now, we continued to live together for another 4 months, and my husband would go to work during the day, and at night time he would come home and he would dress up, and then he would be who he truly was, which was this woman inside. And I would wait every day for him to tell me it was a joke and I'd done really well. And after 4 months, I realised actually it's not a joke. So at that point, because obviously I had my own issues, I was dealing with my own stuff, I had a business with 35 staff and it was failing. And I had a 1-year-old child, and I just knew I just needed a break from this. So I asked him to leave. I said, I need you to leave right now. So he did leave, and he went to Vancouver and he figured out what was going on with him, and I used to go down and visit and help him out. But at the same time, because he had his issues, when he left, so did my income supply. But I didn't think that was a really big problem because my head was swimming in this whole issue of what's just happened to my life. Like it was as if my whole life had been turned upside down. See, the issue with that is when you have any sort of a shock in life, if you don't get help or reach out for a coach, a mentor or psychologist, then you will continue to make poor decisions. So I made this bad decision and then I just kept going with it. So what I thought then was, okay, you're down there doing that, what you need to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to house sit because I can't pay the girls' wages. My wages at that time was $30,000 every 2 weeks. And I couldn't make it because, my business was failing and all of this. Now my income supply is gone, so now I can't pay the rent. So what I'll do is I'll house sit because then I won't have any rent to pay. So what a great idea. So I house sat, and some of my house sits would last for, 6 weeks, and some of them would be 4-6 days. So, in between getting my son to daycare and going to work and seeing my clients, then I would actually be packing up the truck and actually moving to the next place so that I would have a roof over our head. And the interesting thing about that is I remember I was probably about 3 or 4 months into that, and I was moving. There was a little A-frame on the side of the hill, and I was moving from the bottom A-frame. And I was packing everything up into the truck, and there was a girl on the top part of the A-frame. And she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm moving out." And she goes, "Well, where are you going?" And I said, "I don't know." And she goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "I've just been doing this house-sitting thing with my son." So my son was a year old. And she goes, "Oh, well, we're going to Hawaii. Why don't you take our place?" So I took their place for another 4 weeks, and so it went on and on and on. But see, the thing is, when you're in a situation like that, which is not great, because I had a money issue, and now I've got actually a home and food issue. Like I can't find a home, I can't feed myself and all of that because all my money's going to my business, and I felt so responsible to my team that I wanted to make it work. I wanted to keep making it work. So on and on it went. And towards the end, my son was then 4 years old, and we had been house sitting for 3 years in over 40 houses. By that stage, I didn't realise the damage it had caused for me personally and emotionally. Like every day I would pray to God, please make it go away. Come on, you make it go away. Change it for me now, change it for me. But it wouldn't change. I was still house sitting. And then to make matters even a little bit worse, I needed more money, and now I need more money because I still need to pay my girls and I can't make this work. So what I'll do is I'll get another job. So I actually picked up a job cleaning a restaurant, and the restaurant was about 3,500 feet. So I cleaned this restaurant, and I would wake up my son at about 3 or 4 in the morning, and we would go clean the restaurant. Then I would take him to daycare. Then I would go to work. Then I would pick him up, come home, see clients, do it again, wherever I was staying at that time. I used to be sweeping that floor of that restaurant, saying to myself, how does a girl who has a university education, who's smart, who grew up in a pretty middle Australia type of environment, how does she end up cleaning floors at 4 in the morning? Like, how does someone so smart end up in this situation? But what I didn't realise was that I actually had a poverty victim scarcity mentality. I didn't know I had one of those. So I didn't know one of those existed. I was still trying to figure out how to feed myself. So anyway, after 3 years and my son was 4, I got so sick of asking for house sits that I decided I was just going to borrow a tent, because that way I would know what I would come home to each night. So for 3 months, my son and I lived in a tent, and every morning I'd wake up and I'd put the tent away, and go and do our stuff. But because it had had a long-term effect in wearing me down, and really I felt like I was 100 years old. I never thought I'd wear makeup again. I thought I'd never wear anything other than army fatigue pants. I just never thought I would blossom again. I thought felt 100 years old. I thought my life was over. It was really interesting because during those 3 years, I'm praying to God, please God, make it change. Please God, make it change. Not realizing that I need to be the change. If anyone's going to change, it's going to be me. Whether or not you have a religious belief or not, I'm going to change that. The thing is, I still couldn't change it for me. So here I was living in the tent, and then I get a phone call from my mum. My mum's really ill. So now I've got extra issue because, Richard Branson says, how do you solve the problem that you have? You get a bigger problem.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.